Hey everybody, Tim Ulbrich here, and welcome to this week's episode of the YFP podcast, where we strive to inspire and encourage you on your path towards achieving financial freedom. As 2025 winds down, it's tempting to say, I'll deal with some of the financial stuff in January. The holidays are busy, schedules are full, but the reality is that some of the most impactful financial decisions happen right now, before the calendar turns into the new year. So today's episode is all about the year-end financial moves that help you save money on taxes, invest with purpose, clean up your financial systems, and walk into 2026 with clarity, momentum, and confidence. These are practical, relatable steps that I've walked through myself, several I revisit every year, and they apply whether you're just getting organized or you're already well into building long-term wealth. So I want you to think of today's episode as your financial closing shift, tidying things up and setting yourself up so that when January hits, you're already moving in the right direction. And make sure to stick around to the end of the episode because I'm adding one bonus step that isn't on most year-end lists, but maybe the most leveraged move that you can make heading into 2026. Now, before we jump into the episode, which will be the last one of 2025, I want to share with you the gratitude that I feel for the opportunity to be hosting this podcast. This year, we've recorded and released more than 50 new episodes. That takes us to over 400, actually, I think 500 at this point since 2017. Each one that is rooted in our mission to help pharmacists build wealth, reduce stress, and create a life that aligns with their priorities and values. Every episode that we've published is only possible because of the incredible guests that have come on the show that are willing to share their expertise, their stories, to be vulnerable with their financial situations. It's only possible because our listeners, like you, who tune in while commuting, working out, making dinner, waiting on a kid's practice, my personal favorite, as well as our team that behind the scenes who edits, produces, schedules, and ensures that the show stays consistent each and every month. So whether you've been with us since episode 1 all the way back in 2017, or perhaps you just started listening this year, thank you so much. Your engagement, your questions, your encouragement is really what keeps this platform going and growing. All right, let's jump into today's show, which is 10 financial moves to make before 2026. Number 1 on our list is doing a financial inventory. Think of this as your annual checkup. Now, I talked about this concept before, so it might be old news for some of you, but if you only complete one action as we head into the new year, let it be this one, and that is calculating your net worth. Your net worth is everything that you own, your assets, minus everything that you owe or your liabilities. And we believe it's a great snapshot of your overall financial health. As I talk about and have talked about before on the show, right? Your income is a great tool, but your net worth, it's a measure of what actually sticks. How are we progressing financially? So at this point, you want to pull the balances for your various asset and liabilities, right? This would be things like your savings in an emergency fund, your investment accounts, your retirement accounts. If you have any debt, whether that be student loan debt, mortgage debt, credit card debt, car loans, whatever it be there in the debt column. Then, of course, we're looking at the assets of some of those as well, like the value of the home. And then if you have any other types of accounts, whether that be 529 saving accounts, other types of investment properties, all we're doing is adding up all of our assets, what we own, minus all of our liabilities or what we owe. Then what we want to do is compare that over time. So if you can go back and track that to the beginning of 2025, how has that changed? How has it progressed? Did your net worth increase? Did your liabilities go down? Did your assets go up? And did you make progress towards your overall goals? I really feel like, and my experience tells me, that the big picture view of tracking your net worth helps you make better decisions month in and month out. It's not the nitty gritty of the financial plan, right? When we do this work with our financial planning clients at YFP and our team of certified financial planners, our net worth, it's a good barometer. It's a good metric of what we're using to track the overall financial health. But obviously, there's lots of planning that goes into how do we optimize that further so that we can grow our assets and reduce our liabilities and move that net worth in a positive direction while living our rich life today. Now, once you get this tracking in place, if you don't already have it done, I would then encourage you to update it monthly. So Jess and I look at this on a month-to-month basis. Takes about 5 or 10 minutes to complete. We like to see it kind of a more manual tracking form, but we also use through the software that we use with our financial planning clients at Right Capital, we can easily sync up our accounts and have this information available as well. It's a great 20,000 foot view to the overall progress and how your financial plan is tracking. So that's number one on our list. Do a financial inventory. Think of this as your annual checkup. Number two is taking advantage of this window of time to max out any tax-deferred savings contributions, as well as to update your beneficiaries of those accounts. Now, while technically you have until April 15th for your IRA contributions and HSA contribution limits in 2025, the 401k, 403b deadline is December 31st. So obviously that's the one that's more urgent. I think the final weeks of the year, right, are a great opportunity to make those contributions. Thinking of things where people might have year-end bonuses, or you've been waiting throughout the year with various savings or other accounts. This is the window of time, even if some of those dates go into 2026, to really be looking at how are we optimizing our tax advantage accounts. Now, just some of the basic information that's must know here. When it comes to your 401k, 403b accounts, the employee contribution limit here in 2025 is $23,500. Yes, there's a catch-up provision for those over the age of 50 and a super catch-up provision for those 60 to 63, thanks to the Secure 2.0 Act. And this base contribution limit of $23,500 in 2025 is going up to $24,500 in 2026. So that's the first one to look at, your 401k or 403b accounts. When it comes to IRA accounts, your contribution limit is $7,000 with a $1,000 catch-up for those that are 50 plus. And when it comes to your health savings account or HSA accounts, that limit is $8,550 for family, so $8,550, and $4,300 for individuals. So again, if you received a year-end bonus or you planned ahead perhaps for holiday spending, consider topping out your retirement accounts or your HSA contributions if that makes sense in your own individual plan. And while you are logged into those accounts, take the next step here and update your beneficiary designation. It takes less than a minute or two, but is one of the most important and often overlooked parts of financial planning. So that's step number two in our 10 moves to make before 2026. Max out your tax-deferred savings contributions and update the beneficiaries. Number three is rebalance your investment portfolio. Now, for those that are working with us as clients at YFP, this is easy. Our team's got it taken care of for you. But throughout the year, market movements can shift, probably did shift your portfolio away from the intended asset allocation. So when we work with our clients at YFP, we do a risk assessment. We're trying to identify, based on that individual's risk tolerance, as well as individual goals and the capacity to take risks to achieve those goals, what is the intended asset allocation when we put all that together. And the idea with rebalancing is that we're simply restoring our investments to that intended asset allocation. So for example, if your target was 80% stocks, 20% bonds, just an example, but because the market's been up, that's really pushed you to more of an 88 and 12 or more of a 90-10 portfolio, right? You're now taking on more risk than at least was initially intended. So again, if you're working with a financial planner like those working with our team at YFP, or you use something like a target date fund, this might already be happening behind the scenes, whether or not you're aware of it. But if you self-manage your accounts, I think it's a good idea to set a recurring reminder at least once a year, if not twice a year. So here we are at the end of the year, great time to look at rebalancing your portfolio. So that's number three, rebalancing your investment portfolio. Number four on our 10 financial moves to make before 2026 is making any 529 college savings contributions. Now, if you're saving for college, year-end is a great time to make contribution. Many states offer tax deductions or credits for contributions that are made before December 31st. So for example, here in the state of Ohio, taxpayers can deduct up to $4,000 per beneficiary annually for contributions that are made to the state's 529 plan. And obviously that's on a state tax basis. So even a small amount, right? $50, $100, several $100s can keep the momentum going with the kids' college savings and reinforces some of the long-term goals if that's a priority that you're working on. So that's number four, making 529 college saving contributions. Number five on our list is spend remaining FSA funds, flexible savings accounts, right? So if you have a FSA, if you have a flexible savings account, make sure to look at your remaining balance. Many FSAs are use it or lose it, meaning that any unspent funds essentially are gone, right? At year end, unless your employer offers a grace period. So this would be a time to think about how you might use those remaining funds, whether it be over-the-counter items, glasses, contacts, right? Appointments that are out there lingering. We don't want to let these dollars just quietly vanish and go away. So not only using unused funds, but also planning ahead and trying to estimate what the need would be for those FSA funds if that is a priority of your plan. Number 6 is preparing for some of the changes that might be coming to your paycheck in 2026, right? When we turn the calendar, a new year may bring changes to your take-home pay. Well, why is that the case? It could be that you have an increase in pay or a change in pay. It could be a change in health insurance premiums. It could be a change in your HSA or FSA elections, perhaps an updated tax withholding situation. You might have revised your retirement contribution amounts, or your employer changes the benefit around that. And then, of course, thinking about things like student loan payment changes if you're on an income-driven repayment plan. So this is a great time. We want to make sure we enter the new year with a good idea of what is going to be that take-home pay so we can plan on a month-to-month basis and align that with achieving our various goals. So take your December pay stub and compare it with one from earlier in the year, and ask yourself what's changing, and do I need to adjust my budget as I think ahead to the year? Should I increase my retirement contributions, right? So not only asking some of those questions, but then also determining what those changes will net, what will that take home be? And that's going to allow us to avoid any surprises in January. So that's number 6 on our list, preparing for any changes to our paycheck in the new year. Number seven on our list of 10 financial moves to make before 2026 is reviewing or creating, if you don't already have them, your estate planning documents, right? So whether you've had major life changes this year or not, it's important to review and revise as necessary your estate planning documents. It's one of those things I just like to think about at least once a year, right? So if you don't yet already have things like a will, durable power of attorney, advanced healthcare directives, and for many, it might include a trust as well, I would really encourage you to make this a priority as you head into the new year. It's a great service and add-on that we add for our clients at Your Financial Pharmacist. Our team of CFPs can work with them through a service that we offer to put in place or revise existing estate planning documents. Now, if you're someone listening who does have those documents in place, it's a good time to just skim those documents, make sure they still align with your situation, with your wishes, with your family situation, dependents, etc. And if there's been any major changes that require update, that you can take those steps to make those changes going into the new year. Not fun to think about, right? As we've talked about before on the show, but updating or creating your estate planning documents is really an act of care for the people that you love. Number 8 on our list is making any year-end charitable contributions, right? It's often a time where people are thinking about giving and generosity, and whether you give regularly or want to start that as a priority in 2026, it's a natural time to be thinking about this. Right. So it could be an end of year gift that you're giving. It could be exploring whether a donor advised fund makes sense in your situation. It could be planning your giving strategy for next year. And it could also be just considering something like a bunching strategy for your giving, which we've talked about on the show before, to do it in a tax efficient way. Now, for those that are thinking about a strategy like a bunching strategy, where we're essentially consolidating our donations, think of this in like an every other year type of rhythm. So we might take something like the standard deduction one year, and then we have the itemized deduction the following year. Not advice, not a recommendation, just something to consider depending on where your giving thresholds are at and where you are at in relation to the standardized deduction and the itemized deduction. So for 2025 tax year, the standard deduction is $15,750 for single filers and $31,500 for married couples filing jointly. So something to think about there. And our 8th money move is making any year-end charitable contributions, or if we zoom out a step further, that would be just thinking about your overall giving strategy. Number 9 in our list is organizing key documents. This builds a little bit on the estate planning concept, but goes a step further. And we've talked about this on the show before. And the concept here is creating or updating what we call a legacy folder, right? So the idea here is, put simply, if someone needed to step in tomorrow and understand your financial situation, your financial life, the question is, could they, right? Could they quickly pick up and understand your situation and be in a position to make decisions? So a legacy folder, whether it's digital, physical, or a combination of both, it can include things like copies of key documents, insurance policies, important account information, contact information for your financial planner, your attorneys, key family members, include your estate planning documents. So for Jess and I, it's a combination of a shared electronic folder that we have access given to our financial planning team here at YFP, as well as my in-laws. And then we have some things that are kept in a safe at home that are more physical documents, things like birth certificates, social security cards, extra copies of certain policies, et cetera. So if you already have something like this in place, great. It's an opportunity to review it, right? If you don't already have something like this in place, start small, right? One folder, a couple PDF documents, get this created, and then you can build from there. And I think, as I have talked about on the show before, the organization and the clarity and peace of mind that can come from this is really, really incredible. If you want some help getting started on this and to think about some documents that you might have inside of your legacy folder, we have a free resource that can help you on that. You can go to yourfinancialpharmacist.com/legacy to download that resource, and we'll link to that in the show notes as well. And our 10th financial move is to think about and set your financial goals for the new year, right? Before 2026 arrives, give yourself some time to reflect on this past year, to reset, and then to think about the various goals as you look ahead. And I'd like to think about these in 3 areas: short-term goals, which I consider things over the next year. So what are those goals that Jess and I want to focus on in 2026? Midterm goals, I like to think about in a 1 to 5 year range. And then long-term goals would be beyond 5 years. All 3 of those are important. So ask yourself some questions, right? What do I want more of next year? What do I want less of? What worked in 2025? What didn't work in 2025? And what financial decisions, as you look back over the past year or 2 or 3, what are some of the financial decisions that you made that helped you feel empowered? What are some of the financial decisions you made that helped you feel grounded, that helped you feel like you were making and finding that balance between taking care of your future self, preparing for tomorrow, while also living a rich life today? That might be an indicator of some of the things that we want to focus on in 2026. I firmly believe that your budget or your spending plan, whatever you want to call it, however complex or simple as it is, right, that should reflect your goals. So once we set the goals, how we spend on a month-to-month, year-to-year basis should reflect our goals. And our goals should reflect our values, those things that are most important to us. And the financial plan ultimately should support the life that we want to build, right? That's how we like to think about this. We often talk about this in the context of living that rich life today while also preparing for tomorrow. And that's the balance we're trying to strike. Now, I mentioned at the beginning that I had one bonus item, right? So we talked about 10 financial moves to make in 2026. One bonus I have is to evaluate whether it's time to hire a financial planner or advisor. If you already have one, perhaps evaluating whether or not that relationship is the right fit. Now, I don't think this is on most people's end of year list, although maybe perhaps it's a natural time to be thinking about this. But I believe, and of course I'm biased, it's one of the highest impact decisions that you can make heading into the new year. So I want you to ask yourself a few questions, like, am I confident in my financial direction, the progress that you've made thus far? If not, what might be contributing to that? Am I often kind of wondering or guessing on things like tax optimization, or how we're investing and prioritizing investing and where we're investing, or perhaps even on retirement planning? Am I on track? How much is enough? Has my financial life changed? Has it become more complex, whether that be because of income, family differences, different assets that have been acquired, goals that have changed? And do I want some accountability and partnership in achieving the financial goals and in making the progress that we desire? You know, I believe firmly that people can DIY their financial plan. And often pharmacists, smart people, it can be done and it can be done well. But I think what often is missing is the difference between good and great, right? And it's not just the X's and O's, it's not just the numbers, but it's also a lot of what we talk about in terms of the emotional parts and aspects of the financial plan. So if you're ready, if you're wondering what it might look like to work with a financial planner in 2026, our team of certified financial planners specialize in helping pharmacists build a comprehensive financial plan, all the way from retirement planning to tax optimization to investment allocation to debt pay down. As my partner Tim Baker often says, if it has a dollar sign on it, we want to be involved in the conversation. So if you're curious to learn more about what that could look like for your situation, you can head on over to yourfinancialpharmacist.com/discovery, and there you'll find an opportunity to book an appointment where we can discuss that further. We'd love to learn more about your situation, about your goals, and ultimately see if working together in 2026 is the right next step. Now, as we wrap up today's episodes, and really as we turn a page here on 2025 into 2026, you'll notice that as I covered these 10 financial moves, none of these things are overly complicated, right? None of them are flashy, but they're foundational. They're moves that are ones that can quietly and consistently really build financial confidence and long-term wealth if we can stack those wins year over year. You don't need to do every step today. And you don't need to do them perfectly, right? What we need to focus on is just taking the next right step. And I believe, as I highlighted at the beginning of the episode, right, a great 2026 when it comes to our own financial plan, that doesn't start in January. It starts right now here in the month of December. So thanks for listening. And thank you so much for being a part of the YFP community in 2025. I'm really excited for what's ahead in 2026 and honored to be on this journey with you. As we wrap up today's episode, if you like what you heard, do us a favor and leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to the show, which will help other pharmacists find this show as well. And finally, an important reminder that the content in this podcast is provided for informational purposes only, is not intended to provide and should not be relied on for investment or any other advice. Information in the podcast and corresponding material should not be construed as a solicitation or offer to buy or sell any investment or related financial product. For more information on this, you can visit yourfinancialpharmacist.com/disclaimer. Thanks so much for listening. Have a great rest of your week. Great end of 2025, and looking forward to seeing you in 2026. Take care.